Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, I am Janine, a communication scientist, and on this channel, we decode culture, public figures, and controversial societal issues through a communication science lens. Now, I just want to make a quick disclaimer. When I do decode public figures, it is not meant to be celebrity gossip. What I am doing is I am allowing you to see the ways in which systems operate within the entertainment industry. And in doing so, we as the normal people can better understand our relationship in relation to celebrities. And we can also understand our place within the system. Okay? So now that that disclaimer has been made, let's discuss briefly what we are going to be doing in today's video. So today, I want to make an argument that although there's been this sort of public accepted idea as to why people have wanted to see the Kardashians experience a downfall, I believe that there are also less spoken about reasons. And it is those less spoken about reasons, that which I call the real reason, that we are going to be focusing on today. Okay? So let's get into it. And let's begin with a little bio of Miss Kim Kardashian. So, for context, Kim first entered public awareness in the mid 2000s through celebrity social circles. In 2007, a private intimate tape recorded years earlier with singer Ray J became public, whereby the media significantly amplified recognition of Kim Kardashian's name. Later that same year, the family launched the reality show Keeping Up with the Kardashians, which ran for 20 seasons. And over time, Kim has leveraged visibility into business ventures, most notably Skims, building a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. Now, whether you admire that trajectory or you resent it, structurally speaking, it does represent one of the most successful conversions of notoriety into long term capital in modern media history, which is remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. Now, for over a decade, public discourse has cycled around the idea of a Kardashian downfall. I call it the fantasy that people have had since forever. People have quite literally had these fantasies of just seeing the Kardashians be completely, for lack of better word, wiped out. I know that sounds harsh, but how many times have we not come across a video on social media in which people have said, like, hey, I am just so sick of this family. Why do I need to see them on my feed? Can they not just disappear already? So I think the most appropriate term to use is downfall, because that is exactly what so many people want. They want the Kardashian family to experience a downfall. But let's clarify something real quick. Let's ask ourselves, what exactly do people mean when they say downfall? What should a downfall encapsulate? Now, when people say downfall, they don't just mean like, oh, I want the Kardashians to experience some sort of little embarrassment or some sort of little crisis. No. When people say they want the Kardashians to experience a downfall, what they mean is economic collapse. And what this means is loss of endorsements, loss of partnerships, loss of customers, relevance, financial stability. So, this imagined downfall is not just wanting them to experience some sort of humiliation. No. This imagined downfall is the removal of the Kardashians from the economic hierarchy. Now, the reason why the public wants the Kardashians to be removed from the economic hierarchy is because of the dominant critique that has always been they have no talent. They're simply famous for just being famous. It all started with a tape. That has always been the dominant critique. We all know that. And of course, what we do know is that those particular critiques made a lot of sense back in the day. As mentioned on my previous video that I did on Naomi Campbell, I did mention that in the 80s and 90s, there were these very sort of rigid, defined definitions of what it meant to be a celebrity. So, if you wanted to be a public figure, you needed to have a certain talent, the talent of either singing, acting, dancing, or being an athlete. So, if you did not fit within those defined definitions of what it meant to be a celebrity, if you did not fit within that category, your presence within the public eye was definitely questioned. And of course, the Kardashians were questioned. They were critiqued because of all of this fame and admiration that they were receiving. So, of course, those critiques made a lot of sense back in the day. But let's go back to 2011 when the Kardashians appeared on an ABC News special with journalist Barbara Walters. Now, in the interview, Barbara asked the Kardashian family, like, hey, what exactly is your talent? Because you guys don't sing, you don't act, you don't dance, you don't compete athletically. So, what exactly is your talent? And of course, this question was a challenge to their legitimacy. Now, even though Barbara might today say, like, hey, I did not mean to question their legitimacy, the question was not meant to do that. Let's be honest, yes, the question did challenge their legitimacy. And of course, back then, it was actually quite appropriate to ask celebrities some very uncomfortable questions. So when Barbara asked the question, what exactly are you guys famous for? Kim was the one who responded. She said, hey, Barbara, it is more challenging to go on a reality show and get people to fall in love with you for being you. So basically, what Kim was saying is we might not fit within these idealized categories of what it means to be a celebrity, but it is so much more harder for us because we are not getting people to love us because of a certain talent that we have. We are getting people to fall in love with us because of our personalities, because of relatability. And that is so much more harder. And of course, that answer felt very weak at the time. Because, as mentioned, at the time, it was not about getting people to fall in love with you for you. It was about having a fan base because you had a particular talent. So, yes, at the time, even that answer posed by Kim felt weak. But it is absolutely mind blowing because today, Kim's answer holds an immense amount of weight. Because look at the world of entertainment and pop culture today. Just look at it. So many people today are simply famous for being famous. Let's look at influencer culture, for example. So many influencers have quite literally started their own reality shows via YouTube through vlogs, get ready with me videos, mukbang videos, family channels. So Influencers have basically become loved because of relatability. And even the normal person next door is now well known in their communities because of TikTok. So, yes, the Kardashians did not invent influencer culture, but it is safe to say that they did accelerate its normalization. And what that did was it definitely destabilized the old myth associated with what it means to be famous, what you have to do to actually gain fame, the proper channels which makes you worthy of fame. Now, here's where it gets a bit uncomfortable because this is the point in which I discuss the real reason people want the Kardashians to experience a downfall. And this real reason is not about frustration, it's actually about economics. It's about the financial wounds that people have in relationship or in relation, sorry, to the Kardashians and to the wider community of celebrities. So there are these subconscious questions that people don't always articulate because there is a lot of shame surrounding those questions. And those questions sound like, why do I have to wake up early, study, work long hours, and then still struggle financially while someone else can just become a billionaire from visibility? Yeah, those are the questions that many people ask, but they actually find it so difficult to articulate on a grand scale. And this is not jealousy. I just feel like I need to put that out there. This is not jealousy. I think that people have defined the public's hate toward the Kardashians as that which is jealousy. And I think that jealousy becomes the cop out, it becomes an easier word to use, but it is not jealousy. These real reasons are surrounding what is called economic anxiety. Because think about it, the Kardashians represent accelerated wealth, visibility based capital, access to media, perfect timing within media evolution. And when people, or should I say the normal person, feels financially strained, when survival feels extremely fragile, then hypervisibility, when it comes to wealth, can of course feel like a personal insult. And this is what I mean by financial wounds. It is the wound of believing that, hey, your success must equal suffering. You need to grind in order to achieve wealth. Your visibility must equal merit. And when someone, in this case the Kardashians, bypasses that formula, it definitely destabilizes that particular belief system. Now let's go to September 2022 when Ray J stepped on the scene once again. So Ray J publicly claimed that the tapes released between him and Kim had actually been negotiated rather than leaked. And he also presented what he described as contractual evidence. And of course, today these claims still remain publicly disputed and legally unresolved. The Kardashians were like, hey, Ray J is speaking trash. These tapes got leaked. We did not manufacture any of this. So, of course, I just think it is important to once again note that these claims do remain undisputed on the part of, those who believe that black and white holes wait. But here's what's important. When those allegations surfaced, when Ray J spoke out, many people within the public collective reacted with a sense of relief. They were like, finally, finally the Kardashians are about to get their downfall. Because for all this time, they were swinging the narrative that, hey, this tape was just leaked. So now that we know it was not leaked, finally. And people really thought that this would be the moral nail in the Kardashian coffin. But guess what? Not even that produced a collapse. And that is significant because it actually suggests that the desire for a Kardashian downfall is less about truth. The need for a downfall is more about restoring a sense of economic fairness, which is something that most people do not speak about. So the big question is, how do we deal with all of this? And this is not about asking, are the Kardashians wrong or are they right? This is not about excusing behavior. Because if it is revealed further down the line that, hey, all of this was manufactured, of course, legal action would be needed and outrage would be completely understandable. But the question is, how do we actually make peace with the ways in which wealth is born within the system of pop culture, within the system of the entertainment industry? We need to make peace with this by accepting the ways in which hierarchies function. And this is where a structural perspective comes in, because from a structural perspective, access to capital, networks, timing, and media infrastructure definitely and unfortunately creates very unequal starting points. And that is something that is not new. As mentioned, that is exactly how hierarchies function. So the real question is not, do the Kardashians deserve their wealth? Do they deserve to be famous? No, those are not the real questions. The real question is, why does their wealth feel like a personal insult to so many people? And this is because they are financial wounds that the public has in relation to celebrities. But we need to make peace with these wounds and heal these wounds by understanding the structural perspective, which states basically that there are, of course, radical, unequal starting points. So, yes, that is the real reason as to why people have always wanted the downfall of the Kardashians. It's got nothing to do with questioning why they are famous. It's about the fact that, hey, you guys have experienced this abundance of wealth on these bases that we think are so unfair. So, what do we do when we perceive the system to be unfair? And here is a very subjective opinion. If someone's existence within the pop culture industry feels triggering, the work is not in the public waiting for their collapse. We can no longer sit around, wait for certain celebrities to experience a collapse, create celebrity gossip, come at these celebrities, troll them. We can no longer do that. It is 2026 and we need to move forward. At the end of the day, Kim is in her 40s. She has 4 kids. Her oldest daughter is 12. And to constantly be reminded about what happened back in the day when you were a teenager can feel like a personal insult to Kim, because she has over the years worked extremely hard. And whether people are going to say, like, hey, that hard work is still based on the foundation of a tape, what can we really do about that, right? There is nothing that we can really do. Yes, we can question the system, we can do all sorts of things to protest against it, but in the grand scheme of things, there's not much that we can really do. So, as mentioned, if their existence is triggering, the work is not in waiting for their collapse, but instead, it is about examining what their success activates within us. And of course, as mentioned, this is not about excusing behavior, not at all. What we are witnessing within the collective is something deeper. It is a collective wrestling with economic anxiety, with ideas of what it means to actually deserve wealth, and then people bypassing that. And it's about us getting to this point where we need to understand that systems do bypass what we believe is right or wrong. And that is why, in order to understand the system, and actually, once we do understand the systems, when we do understand that, yes, they are unequal starting points, when we do understand that, yes, one person can create a whole lip kit and become a billionaire, whereas someone else might do the same thing and not get even one customer, when we understand that that is because of structural inequality, if that's what we want to call it, or radically unequal starting points, when we understand that, we're able to make peace with that, okay? When we name the collective shadow, when we are able to name the wounds within ourselves, that is when we turn inward. That is when we turn the spotlight on ourselves. That is when we ask ourselves, how can we heal our own personal relationship with money, instead of pointing a finger at celebrities, instead of saying things like, hey, they are taking from me, they don't deserve this and that, okay? It's really about focusing on ourselves. And focusing on ourselves can feel really difficult because we are a relational species. Everyone's sense of self is based on what someone else is doing. And this is where self awareness is important. It is about how can we remain sovereign within the system? How can we remain sovereign within this system where things feel unfair? How can we remain sovereign when there is this reality of unequal starting points when it comes to the economy, when it comes to wealth, when it comes to the creation of survival? Okay? And I will leave this video right here. Okay, I think that was an extremely deep dive, and I might do a part two, which delves more into this particular dilemma. But for now, I'm going to leave this video right here. Thank you guys so much for joining me. If you enjoy these deep conversations in which we analyze controversy through a communication science lens, I would definitely appreciate your support so much. So please do subscribe to this channel, like this video, comment, and please share it with whoever you think might need to see it. And I'll see you in the next video.